And thanks for coming out, folks. As we really, as part of the CIAC Unified program, we really, I'm going to say, kick off, a little pun on words, kick off Unified Flag Football. Interesting thing about flag football, and we are actually getting a jump on it. The CIAC is looking into putting flag football as an actual sport in schools. It's going to be a female flag football team. So that may be something down the road. A lot of states have that already. I was talking to a woman in New York where women's flag football is very popular in high schools. We're getting a jump on it with our unified kids. And interesting enough, talking to a member of the Jets organization, the person there who's really trying to kick it off for Unified in New York says, I want to make football available to every kid. And that's kind of what we want to do as well. And that's what you folks do. So this is just another sport that we would love to add into our Unified Sports program. And it's probably always a good idea when we introduce a new sport, let's try to make sure everybody's on the same page. We always start off small, and in the next few years, we'll have a lot more. So you guys, as Bob mentioned, you guys are really kind of spearheading it along. As we go along, any questions that you have, by all means, we're going to have a question and answer period. Stick around. We have some sandwiches for you as well coming out. And I hope that this really becomes good information for you. And I'm available. Our staff is available anytime that you guys may have questions or anything of that nature. Just a couple of things, people say, I'm a unified coach. I know nothing about football. That's why I don't want to do it. I know soccer. Yeah, I watch basketball. I know nothing about football. You don't have to, all right? You guys know what we do with our kids. We just want our kids to have a lot of fun. Kids know football, whether they watch it, whether they played it, whatever it is, but they know it. You guys will have no problem instituting this. I'm recommending that if you can get a couple partners that are actually football players at your school, they'll love it. And they'll run with it. And they'll just take those athletes of yours and they'll just put them right into the right spot. So don't worry that you don't know anything about football. By the end of the year, you'll be a master of it, just like any other sport that you incorporated in. So that's not something that you should have to feel. What we're going to do is I'm going to review our unified sports rules. There's a whole level of sports rules in unified sports, down from Special Olympics, down to unified sports, and I even modified it a little bit more for us to get started. As the sport grows, we can kind of increase it, but we just want to make sure that every kid at any level is going to be able to play it at your school. So we'll go over those modified rules as we get through the program. I have some drills in there that kind of help your team be successful, some of the simple drills that I think would be a good place to start. How to run a good practice is something that you would want to do. I'm going to give you that. And just like every other sport that you do, it's more than just football. It's a lot of fun with some of the activities that you can incorporate in it. Just an athlete holding a football and running with it, they'll be excited to do that. So anything that you can do to make it fun, that's what we can do. So, kick it off though. We do have a football player here, okay? We are fortunate enough to have Ray Roberts here. He played for the NFL, and he played for the Seattle Seahawks. He also played for Detroit Lions, who, anybody who watches football, are now playing for moving on to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to introduce you to Ray Roberts. As I do that, because Super Bowl is right around the corner and because we are talking football, I'm going to walk around, and we said there's a couple of gifts that we're going to give you. We're going to start you guys off with a Monday Night Football hat as well. But I'm going to have Ray come forward, introduce himself, and talk a little football as we get underway.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. Thanks for the introduction there, Steve, and glad to be here in Connecticut. My daughter played a couple years of basketball at Central Connecticut State when we lived in Virginia, and so it's pretty cool to be up here in the area, and I've done a few little things over at ESPN from time to time. So kind of happy to be here. I also am the senior advisor for Special Olympics Unified Champion Schools for our urban work. So I started this job about 9 years ago, right before the USA Games we had in Seattle. I was an ambassador for the USA Games and had done some work at Microsoft as a diversity, equity, inclusion specialist. So had a different viewpoint on inclusion than a lot of the other ambassadors that were just coming from athletics and had never really engaged in that space. And so one day I was talking to this group about what inclusion is and what it's not. And the president of Special Olympics came up and asked me if I liked what I was doing at the time. And I said, yeah, but it sounds like you're about to ask me something else. And so he said, hey, we got this thing called Unified, and we need help getting it into our urban and city school districts. And you seem like the guy that can help us do it. At the time, only thing I knew about Special Olympics was that when I played with the Seahawks, I gave out the medals at one of our state games, and which was interesting because it was pouring rain. It was Seattle, and this kid had won like the 100-meter dash or something, and I had the gold medal, and they were like, "Hey, from the Seattle Seahawks, Ray Roberts." So I'm walking up there to give him the medal, and he's going like, "Boo! The Seahawks suck!" like go Raiders, and the Raiders were like our rival at the time. And honestly, I was just like, okay, man, like I'm really serious about my Seahawks. Like, I don't know if I want to give you this medal or not, And so, but that was my interaction with Special Olympics at the time. And so Andrea Khan, who was our president of our Unified Champion Schools at SONA, met with her, talked to her for about maybe 2 hours. She kind of brought me up to speed to what Unified was. And so I said, so you're telling me that there's a female of color in an underrepresented community and an under-resourced school that doesn't have access to the outcomes that you say that this thing has. And so she said yes. And I said, well, then I'll work, if you hire me, I'll work every day to get it to that one person, because she had the quadruple whammy. She was female, she was of color, she had disabilities, and she was didn't have the financial support and stuff that she needed. So she really that kid would have no chance at having a life. And so I took the job. So it's been 9 years. And it started out as urban innovation. So we had this pool of money that the programs could, draw from if they were saying we're going to work in our city school districts and we need this much money to do it. And actually Special Olympics Connecticut was one of the first, I call it the original 9, that was putting specific energy into doing work in the city schools. And so that was my first time coming up here. And I don't know if you guys have met Bo Doherty, but Bo used to be run Special Olympics Connecticut, and it actually is credited with starting the whole Project Unified, which then became Unified Champion Schools, because he told Mrs. Shriver that, hey, why don't we try having the students with and without intellectual disabilities on the same teams. And so that's how it all started. And I just remember Bo said, Ray, I don't care what initiative you start, just minimize the paperwork. I said, and so to this day, it's been 9 years. Everything that I try to do, if I'm doing something new with Special Olympics, I go hey, can we just keep that to 3 or 4 questions? Bo always said, no, we have too much paperwork, so don't want to have a lot of paperwork. But as they said, I did play in the NFL. I went to college at the University of Virginia, grew up in North Carolina, and ended up being an All-American at Virginia, and got drafted in the first round of the Seahawks in 1992. I was the 10th pick in the draft, played left tackle. I was about 70 pounds heavier then, so I don't know, 60 pounds. I don't know how much I've lost. I played at 320, and right now, I'm not a good math person, and I'm about 275 now. Played 4 years in Seattle, and then was a free agent, so I went to Detroit, played in Detroit for 6 years, and then retired and moved back to Seattle. Did a bunch of different things, and so I'm just a dude that has to stay busy. Went back to school and got a master's degree in athletic leadership from the University of Washington. Got really interested in this DE&I space, and that's how I ended up at Microsoft. worked for a organization called Rainier Scholars in Seattle that helps kids of color who are first-generation college candidates, get through school and get into college and graduate from college, not just get into college, but graduate from college. That's what I was doing before I came to Special Olympics. I've also do keynote speaking. I'm on the Seahawks pregame, postgame show. Do a lot of stuff and mentor a lot of kids and young people. So I try to stay busy. And I will say that since I started this work 9 years ago in our city work, we're probably in about maybe 1,500 schools with our city work, and now we're in close to 3,000 schools. And so we've done a really good job of kind of amplifying and building more capacity for our programs to be able to bring on our city schools. Is a little bit more challenging sometimes. You got to overcome more hurdles and different things you got to get past in order to get it implemented there. Stigma, in the communities of color, all those types of things. So it's been challenging, but it's been super rewarding. And the rewarding part of it is that, I told some of the kids this morning is that when you choose to include folks, you're giving them life, and in return you're receiving life, right? So like when you watch some of the videos and things that we have around our athletes talking about what it means to be on a team, doing a sport, being part of what everyone else is doing, just watch how their faces light up, and then listen to the words they say about things they want to do in the future, or how they enjoy coming to school, or how they enjoy having friends. That's like living, And then you listen to some of the people that are the partners or other people that are engaged, and watch how they light up and how it gives them purpose and something to do and something to be proud of. And so life is a given life. And so to me, the inclusion part of it and what we do, the unified sports part of it, is bigger than the sports, it's bigger than the events, it's bigger than the meetings, it's bigger than even the high fives in the hallways. It's life. Some people just don't have life, and this really gives them life. And so that's what I'm all about. Like, I love that piece of it. I love that part of it. When I was a football player, when I played in the league, that was kind of who I was. Like, I was a captain on every team I've ever played on. And I was I don't know if I was telling Steve this morning, 1 year in Detroit, I got voted team captain, and there's 57 guys on the team. I couldn't vote for myself, and 46 dudes voted for me as a team captain. And so this coach, Bobby Ross, who had coached in high school, college, and NFL, called me to his office and was like, "Hey, man, are you campaigning to be the team captain?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, man?" He goes, "Like, I've never seen this before. This many dudes voted for you to be the captain. It's like, what are you doing?" I said, "Dude, I'll be honest with you. I just meet everybody where they are, and I try to make sure that everybody's included in what we're doing and making them feel like they're part of what we're doing, because that's what sports was for me. I grew up very poor in a very chaotic family, and sports gave me a place to belong, and gave me purpose and gave me friends and all that kind of stuff. And so I love this work. It is I think I told him this morning, is the team that I work with at Special Olympics is the greatest team I've ever been on, and the work I'm doing is the biggest purpose I've ever had in my life. Football, playing in NFL was great. It's a great stop in my life, but it was not my life. I think it was the thing that was the porch to the rest of my life. And so it gave me an opportunity to do some cool stuff, and this is one of them. So as it relates to the football part of it, the way I played football is a little different than the flag football. That's why all my fingers are broken, and like my knee surgeries and ankle surgeries and back problems and neck problems and all that kind of stuff. But I will say this, when they had the USA Games in Seattle, my youngest son was just kind of getting into playing football, and super competitive, unbelievable energy, aggressive, just when he would be on the field, I'm just like, dude, it looks like you're mad at the blades of grass. Why do you play with so much ugh? And he's like, "I don't know, Dad." I'm like, "Well, you should come watch our kids play." And so he came over to the games, and we watched the flag football games. And I will tell you that the flag football teams from Florida are legitimately world-class flag football teams. You cannot tell athletes from partners, and they are super fast, and they can jump super high, and they just destroyed everybody. But the cool thing was that even the teams that were playing, if the other team made a good play, you would see the Florida team going up to them like, hey, good catch, or like, hey, I love the way you grabbed that flag, or that was a cool move, or whatever it was, helping people up. And I wanted my son to see that. I wanted him to see that you can compete as hard as you want to compete and still be a good person on the field. You can be a good teammate, you can be a good opponent, all those kinds of things, and still enjoy the idea of competing. And so it was a really big deal. And I will tell you that flag football is one of the more popular sports with Special Olympics. So our teams out in Seattle, the teams in Florida, I know flag football is becoming just big in general, especially like you were talking about for the females. My oldest played, when we lived in Virginia, her high school did a flag football season, and she was a quarterback of it, loved it, all that kind of stuff. But to me, it's not necessarily about the sports that we offer. It's about the culture and environment that you create. So I heard someone say about having fun. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Like even one of the reasons I retired from the NFL, because it wasn't fun anymore. I was hurting too much. It was hard to practice. I had to ice everything and heat everything and massage everything just to get to the field and then take a golf cart back to the locker room. So that took the fun out of it. So once the fun left, I left. And I will tell you, as big as the money is, as great as the fame is, when the fun leaves, you leave, because it's just not worth it anymore. And I also coached high school sports. So I coached ninth grade women's basketball and high school women's basketball, and I was a head football coach at 2 different schools in Seattle. So I was a head football coach for probably combined 7 or 8 years. And the most important thing to me, no matter what you're coaching, whether it's sports or you just, whether it's football or bocce ball or badminton or golf or soccer or whatever it is you got to make it fun, whether you know exactly what you're doing or not. I had played basketball. My dad had coached basketball, but I had never coached basketball, so I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I was making up drills as I went along and trying to figure out who could play what and trying to figure out how to draw up plays. Like, I didn't know, what a 2-3 zone was from a, 1-3-1 from man-to-man concepts. I didn't know any of that stuff, but I had played before. And so I would just read a lot, look at other film, figure out what to do, come to practice, see if it works. It's kind of like rolling the dice. But the one thing I try to do is make it fun. And then the other part was I try to give every single person a role on our team. I think I was telling Kathy on the drive or at lunch today, we had this one young lady in the high school team, and we needed someone to come off the bench that could score. And she was one of our better shooters, but I needed her to come off the bench. And so I went to her and I said, hey, Maddie, I know you're not going to like this conversation, but I really need you to come off the bench. And so I could see the sadness in her face. I said, but here's the key. When you come in with the second team, you have the green light. If there's any space at all, shoot it. If you can create space, shoot it. Just keep shooting. And so she ended up being our second leading scorer on our team, even though she came off the bench. And so the really cool thing was that she may not have wanted that position, but she accepted it because I made the role really clear for her. She had something to do, something we depended on, and then I kind of made it fun because you can shoot. Why play basketball if you can't shoot, right? And so I was telling Kathy, she went on to play some junior college basketball, and then she went over to Europe and played a few times, and then she would text me all the time, hey, coach, I'm still shooting it, because she just embraced her role as the shooter on our team. I coached high school football, and I had this guy, I didn't tell you this story, but there's 2 of them. I had this one kid that came out, and he's a little kid, he said, Coach Roberts, I want to be on the team. And I was just could tell that maybe had autism or something, so I was a little bit nervous, had never really engaged, this is before I started working at Special Olympics, had never really engaged Special Olympic athletes. And I said, well, man, what do you want to do? He goes, well, I don't want to play. I just want to be on the team. I'm like, well, okay, sure. And so that same day, our equipment room was a mess. So I said, hey, Nate, you want to come help me clean the equipment room? So we go in the equipment room, and I look up, and this dude is his little area that I asked him to clean looked like the Taj Mahal. And I was just like, whoa, like I can't even figure out where to put this pair of cleats. And he has like everything like this. I said, hey, Nate, like, you want to just take over the equipment room and clean it up? He goes, yeah, I'll do that. I said, well, here's the keys. You're going to be our equipment room manager. And so like any of the kids that come that need new equipment, they need t-shirts, shorts, whatever it is, they have to come through you. You track everything, keep track of it. You're the equipment room manager. And he goes, oh man, he loved it. And then he goes like, what is that thing over there? I'm like, oh, that's the Gator, you know, the little thing you drive. He goes, can I drive that? And I was like, well, I'll use that to set the field up. So I set up the pylons, I put the pads and things out, like where we need them. And I said, I can show you how to do it. And so I showed him how to do it, and then he did it great. And I'm like, okay, now you're the field manager. So you're the equipment room manager, and you're the field manager. So you got to set the field up for practice. You got to break it down after practice. You got to set it up for games, break it down after games. And so it's really cool because then he became part of our team, and even our players would call him coach. And then years later, I go to all these different little high school, little league football games around the area in Seattle. And I was walking into this game, and this person was walking out, and they had a referee jersey on, this big, huge beard. And they go, Coach Roberts. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And didn't recognize. You don't even know who this is. I'm like, not really. It's Nate. And I went, oh, Nate the Great, how are you? And so he had enjoyed his experience with our football team so much that that's where he found his purpose. And so now he's like one of our junior high JV football officials in high school out in our area in Seattle. That's what he does. And so it was really cool because to me, it gave me purpose to find a place for him to find purpose. So it kind of reiterates that whole life given life. And so it was really, really cool to see it. I wrote an op-ed for Special Miss Unified last year, and I asked Nate if I could tell his story in it. And I did, and he said yes. And so then I had these pictures of him and I. He's always run right beside me. We run the team running out. He's like right beside me. You know, he's Coach Nate and I'm Coach Ray. And so he would just run out there with us. But it just goes to show that like it doesn't really matter what the platform is. What matters is creating fun and giving someone a role, on the team. On that same team, we had another kid that came out that had autism, but he wanted to actually put on pads and be part of the team. And he was literally like this tall. And the smallest pads we had were still like this big. And I was just like, all right. And so he said, but I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get hurt. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure out something. And so everyone on our team, his name is Josh, they started calling him D1, as in Division I athlete, right? And so that he just kind of latched onto it. The whole school knew him as D1. Hey, what's up, D1? What's up, D1? And so I'm like, man, he's a senior. We have all these senior action pictures of all the players. Like, how do we create something for Josh so that he can have a picture and a memory? So every day we practice this one play where we would snap the ball to Josh and like everybody would just run to the right. And I said, Josh, you just get right behind him and just run right behind him. So we practice this every single day. And then the last game, senior night, my father-in-law at the time, who was a photographer, I said, hey, look, we're gonna run this play with this kid, Josh, and we're gonna run it to this particular area. Make sure you set up right here so you can get this great picture of Josh, running the football. And so we didn't tell the other team it was just gonna be just a regular football play, but our team just knew what we were doing. And so Josh calls for the ball, and as the ball's coming, he remembers that he didn't have his mouthpiece in. So he reaches up to grab his mouthpiece. The ball hits him in the face, bounces in the air, the other team grabs it, and then runs in for a touchdown. And so he comes to the side, and I'm like, Josh, like, what happened? He goes, oh, Coach Roberts, I didn't have my mouthpiece in. I was like, oh, my God. I said, Josh, at that point, don't worry about your teeth, man. Just grab the football and run with it. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. But we got a picture of the ball right before it hit his face. So he has this senior picture with his hands like this and the ball coming through it. And it's almost like he's like about to kiss the football. It's right here. So it ended up being a really cool picture. But the other role that Josh had on our team is that he could tell the most amazing jokes. And so anytime our practice was kind of slacking a little bit, I would blow the horn, and then everybody would come up and I'd be like, all right, Josh, do your thing. And he would get down on one knee and he'd tell this joke. And then at the end of the joke, he'd always slap his knee like this. And then everybody would just burst out laughing. And then we'd go back to practice, have a good time. And so then it became like, hey, Josh, we need a knee slapper. And so I'd blow the horn, hey, we need a knee slapper. And then everybody would just come up, Josh would tell his joke. And so it wasn't the role that a typical football player would have, but Josh didn't want to get hurt, but he wanted to have on the pads, he wanted to put on the helmet, he wanted to wear the school colors, he wanted to be part of the team, and we found him a role on the team. And so his role was, he was like our energy, spirit type dude on our team, and he was fine with that. He didn't really necessarily want to get into games or anything, but he wanted to be able to put on a uniform and run out with our football team and stand on the sidelines. He was fine doing that. We created a play for Josh, and the cool thing is that we had told all the students that this was going to happen. And so when he went to go in the game, the whole student section was going D1, D1, D1. So it was like an amazing experience, except for catching the football. And so Josh had a good time. And so those two things to me is what makes any sport that you're doing, as a coach, whether you know exactly what you're doing or you don't know one single thing about what you're doing. If you can do those two things, it'll go a long way. Because the other stuff, like Steve was saying, like most of the kids, or if you get kids out there that have played football, they'll start telling you what what you should do or what you shouldn't do, or how we should do it or how we should not do it. And then you can just kind of learn as you go. My dad never played, didn't have an athletic body in his bone in his body. Never played one sport, couldn't chew gum and walk at the same time. But at the time, he coached what became AAU basketball. He coached our rec league basketball team. So all the kids that wouldn't make the high school men's and women's basketball team would come play for my dad. And so he just kind of figured out some drills, had the kids do it, and then he had some of the best teams in our state in the rec league. And he never played anything, never coached it on a form like high school or college or school level, club level, anything like that. He just kind of said, hey man, these kids need a place to play basketball. I'll figure out how to do it. And so I actually played for my dad until 11th grade. I never would play with the school teams. I played with my dad's teams. And so it doesn't matter if you know it or not know it, but if you know how to learn, maybe even like, I would say that flag football is closer to what they call 7-on-7. So 7-on-7 is like, it started out as like a practice drill where football teams would just have the quarterback and the receivers going against the defensive backs who covered the receivers, and you're just working on timing of the routes, throwing the football, catching the football, and the defensive backs are working on their coverages and how to guard receivers and things. And then it became like this thing, like AAU basketball, that they just do all over the country. So even if you just said, hey, I'm gonna go find some film, if you like Googled YouTube a 7-on-7, you could just see flag football basically. It's flag football without the flags. It's the same number of people on the field. It's kind of the same concept. So they're counting like there's, before they can rush the quarterback, you got to count to like 1,003 or 4 or whatever it is before you can get after the quarterback and then he throws the football. But you can find plays and probably even some drills and some routes and things to run. You can probably cheat it a little bit like that. But if you just Google 7-on-7 on YouTube or something like that, you can probably find that kind of stuff. But 7-on-7, I think Kathy was telling me that some of you guys were a little bit nervous about like kids grabbing flags or slamming into each other or whatever it is. But it is, I've been to a lot of 7-on-7 games that our athletes play. They love it and enjoy it. It's big in other places with what we do. In Seattle one time in conjunction with the Seahawks, and maybe there's a college team or something here you can do it with, we did a combine with the Seahawks. So we had all these different stations set up, and then we had the athletes come in. So there's a station that they can throw the ball, there's a station where they're catching the ball, there's a station where they learn how to grab the flags, all these different kinds of things, how to run routes, all these different things, so that they start to kind of get a feel for what it's like, and maybe you can just do it amongst yourselves. Maybe this group itself could just have like a combine where everybody's just kind of learning. So maybe a group of you are running one section of the drills, and another group is running the other section, but you have all the athletes kind of going through it, trying to get in the feel of it. And so that way you get an understanding of what they can and can't do, what they need to be better at, and you can find some little drills and little tips and little things that you can do to create an opportunity for the kids. And so it is a big sport out in Seattle. I don't know if you guys are familiar how much you follow football, but Russell Wilson was our quarterback for a long, long time. And he actually started our women's or girls flag football academy. And so it's a flag football league just for girls, and it's all throughout our city. And then the NFL kind of came through with their girls flag football initiatives and things. So it's a pretty big time. I think it's a varsity sport maybe in Florida right now for women's flag football, and there's a lot of teams and organizations out in Seattle that do it. But as it relates to the unified piece of it, man, it's just another opportunity for kids to get to learn each other, get to know each other, get to see that everyone has skills and abilities and everyone has deficiencies. It doesn't matter what your designation is, whether you're the athlete or the partner. Like I call them teammates. It's hard for me to say athlete and partner, but whether you're the athlete or partner, everyone has skills and abilities, and everyone, and it also breaks down barriers, right? It breaks down the barriers of the unknown. Sometimes it's the unknown that creates the fear, because you don't know what's going to happen or how someone's going to respond, or if you're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or hit someone too hard or whatever it is. Sometimes it's the unknown that creates the fear and keeps people apart from each other. So having them together breaks down that, right? So that you can, that's part of the unified piece. It breaks down these barriers and the fears so that people get to know each other. And so I think if you look at it that way and not be as intimidated about like, oh, I don't know football, but you know kids and you know people and you know how to bring people together and you know how to get people to celebrate each other, just make that a big part of what you do as you're learning the football, piece of it. And I guarantee you that will work. It will work if you do those things, because that's what this is all about, right? And so you may not get some of the football part of it right, but you can get those other parts right or more right, real close to right. And you'll have a successful, enjoyable, fun time doing it, and the kids will do the same. So awesome. I can talk forever. I love football, but if you guys have any questions, I can answer questions of any kind, whether it's flag football, me, NFL, whatever it is, take a few questions.
Anybody have questions for Ray? He's going to be around afterwards. Ray is, we had him earlier today at a middle school, unified program. And I got to tell you, so we're talking middle school kids that when Ray walked into the building, they're like, ooh, and it's interesting that they wanted to touch him, and, kids like football. But he signed all their hats. They were so excited to do that. He's willing to sign your guys' hats if you want it, before you end today. So, Ray, you hit some strong points, and probably the biggest one. How lucky are we to have somebody in Special Olympics that came off of the NFL, where we're trying to kick off football here, and he mentioned some key points. It's not really about the sport. It's about kids having fun, and that's what we're all about. So this is just another sport, and those kids want to play football. So, and we're going to give them that opportunity without the contact, without broken fingers and broken ankles. But, as he said, flag football is just really catching on nationwide, and we're going to start it off with our unified kids first here in Connecticut. So, Ray, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
Good. Yep. I have silver pins too that show up on the black hats. Kathy was thinking it through.
So just kind of the basics that we want to do, and we are going to be really, really informal with what you want to do and what works for your school as we really try to get this program going. We're going to start off with 6 players on the field, and the reason why we want to go 6 is just because of the size of the field, similar to soccer, what we do. So 6-on-6 tends to work pretty good for us. We're going to go 3 athletes, 3 partners if you can. Obviously, that's up to you, depending on what your program is, how many athletes, how many partners you have. Obviously, you can run or pass the ball, as Ray talked about. Passing might be a little bit more difficult, but the kids will be so excited to catch a football. Trust me, when some of the games that, there are some schools that are playing flag football. Anyone here has done flag football with their kids yet? Okay. Perfect.
With the equipment you've done. Yeah.
Awesome. That's good to hear. So, and just watching a kid catch a football, they may have, won $1 million. So it's what it's all about. So you can run the ball or pass. The only thing that we're going to do with passing the ball is if your partner is a quarterback, they can only throw to an athlete. So we don't want a partner-to-partner game, obviously. So an athlete as a quarterback can throw to anybody. And you'll be surprised that you may find a quarterback as an athlete out there who can pretty well throw the ball. So we're going to do that. We're going to play across a standard football field, similar to where we play soccer, okay? It goes widthwise. We're not going to play the full length of a field. And I'll show you how we're going to set that up. And you'll just use cones to set up where the sidelines are, where the end zones, etc. Very similar to if you set up a soccer game on your field.
Same configuration they use at the collegiate unified flag football, so half a field.
Yep, half a field. It works great. And then we're going to run probably 2 15-minute halves, similar to what we do in soccer. We keep a running time. In between that, we'll do a 5-minute halftime. And what I'll do is I'll kind of review that modified rule sheet with you as we go along. We'll get into that, which I threw into your folder. So that's just kind of the basics of how we're going to run our football program here until we get going. As it expands and evolves, and you guys may find, hey, you know what, Steve? We found that we really want to make this field a little bit wider. You know, sure, we can do that. You know, we're very flexible of what we want to do. Obviously, just like anything else, you know, this is where you can have a little fun with the kids. You're going to do a warm-up before any practice, any sport that you do, obviously. But this is where you can kind of have fun. You can give kids, if you're doing an easy jog, let's say you're running maybe 10 yards long, give a couple kids a football and let them run with a football. You know, kids just want to run with a football. They don't just want to run in place. So put a football in their hand, they're going to be excited about doing that. That's football. And that's what they do that in the varsity level. Kids are running with football. They want to do what kids are doing on the high school football team. So, you know, do that. These are just kind of some examples. High knees, where you're driving your knees up to just get kids to loosen up. Butt kicks are great, where you're trying to get your heel up. And just to get the kids kind of moving in any type of movement in which running takes place. A shuffle drill is just if you can get kids coming to the sideline. You've probably done it before with basketball. Just kind of get them to shuffle their feet left and right, because football is, as Ray knows, it's forward, back, left, right. You know, you're everywhere. So very similar to basketball. Any basketball drill that you had, you can do it in football as well. So keep that going. And here's the kind of key thing. Keep plays and formations real simple until you really feel good about it. You know, you're going to have 6 people. You're going to have a quarterback. This is your center. And then you're going to have people who are going to either run the ball or catch the ball, depending on what you have. This setup right here is now we took one of these people, we put him behind the quarterback. So now we're going to hand off to that guy. If you just keep it really simple and your formation simple, people are always afraid, I don't know how to line people up. You know, I don't know the difference between a flanker and a tight end. You know, you don't need to. It's just really, really simple. You need a quarterback. You need someone to hike the ball to the quarterback. And then everybody else is just an offensive person. You can pass or run the ball, whoever it was. If the center, the way we're going to play it, if the center hikes the ball and goes out for a pass, they're eligible to catch a ball. So we're just going to make everybody on offense eligible if you want to get into the passing game. Okay? Simple. That's the name of the game. Keep it simple. Kind of the same thing with defense. So what do I do on defense? We can rush the quarterback. As Ray mentioned, we're going to have a count to that. So if the quarterback is going to pass the ball, we have to give them a little bit of time for that to happen, and then we can rush it and grab their flag. So you can have a couple people up front to kind of guard the inside, whether people are running plays or maybe one of those are going to rush the quarterback. And then you have some people just kind of guarding everybody else off the offense. This rush line is, I'm not going to rush this guy into the play. You have to be up close to be one of those rushing people if you're going to rush. You may decide that, you know, hey, Steve, in our game, we don't want anyone rushing the quarterback, which is perfectly fine. as we adjust it. So you can be, defense is real simple. Just line kids up against another kid. So basic. Again, we're going to keep this all basic. Question?
Can anybody pull a flag?
Yes, they can. Great question. So anybody can pull anybody else's flag.
Not the coach.
Not the coach, yeah. So, what's a flag football practice? All right, we're going to, again, we talked about a warm-up, weaving around cones. You set up 4 or 5 cones, give a kid a football, have them weave in one way, weave out the other way. They really just like carrying that football, as we talked about. If you want to get really fancy with kids, with the cones, they're holding the ball this way. When they weave, all of a sudden they switch hands and they go like this. Kids will find out really special and fun to weave with a football in their hand. You have a couple balls. You may have a couple more as well. So you make a line and you have the kids do that. Some people on that end, some people on this end. When they get to the end, they hand it off. They weave back. So simple drill. A team handoff exchange, I'm going to explain a little bit more what that is. Okay, don't sweep too wide drill. What this is that when a kid gets a football, let's say the quarterback hands a football off, what do kids want to do? They want to run away from the people who are trying to get their flag. We're trying to teach them, you got to run towards the goal line. So that's just part of teaching the game, and I'm going to show you that drill as well. Just a 3-on-2 running drill. I'll show you a little bit more in detail what these are. A pass and catch. You can get a couple kids just taking the ball, throw it 3, 5, 7 yards, whatever the custom used to. One kid throws it, next kid catches it. He throws it back. Pass and catch. You may find your quarterback that way. Okay? Just how do I get my running back in the backfield to get the ball? That's a drill that we can do, and I'll show you that. This is probably the biggest one that people worry about, flag pulling. How do I teach my kids how to pull a flag? Because sometimes they're afraid, as Ray said, they might be afraid to go up to a person. I'm going to show you that as well. And of course, then you always end up with a mini scrimmage. This right here could be your first flag football game. As Ray said, you get 2 teams together, you run some drills together with each other, you kind of teach each other what the drills are, and then you actually maybe play a little game. This is another one that people worry about. You have to have the center snap the ball to the quarterback. That's going to start the game. So the quarterback can't stand there with the ball in his hand. We actually want to teach the kids to hike the ball to the quarterback. You can either have your quarterback under center, or you can have them in shotgun position. You know what shotgun position means? Where they're stepping off the ball and they're actually throwing the ball to them. I'm going to show you that drill here. So this could be a practice drill that you want to do with your kids during your practice.
Players practice their shotgun snap in this high-speed game we call center snap relay. Set up 2 parallel rows of 8 cones each, placed 5 yards apart. Divide players into 2 teams, then line them up with 1 player at each cone, all facing you. The 2 players at the first cone get a ball.
All right, here we go.
Here's how it looks.
Ready, set, hike.
On your call, the first player in line reaches forward and snaps the ball to the player behind them. This continues until the last player receives a snap. Then they race back to the front of the line, stopping at the empty cone in front of player 1. The relay repeats until one of them reaches the final cone.
It's close. We have a close one. Run, 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 run. Sprint, sprint. Great job.
This game is all about learning how to snap and receive the ball effectively.
Yeah, so remember when we start the snap, we're going to make sure it's on the floor, right?
Every legal snap starts with the ball on the ground, placed slightly in front of the center's head. They then move the ball back through their legs, holding onto it until it passes their calves before tossing it back to the person behind them. Remind snappers to hold their follow-through and not stand up too soon. If they want to see what's going on behind them, they'll have to look through their legs. Both one-handed and two-handed snaps are allowed, so ask players to go with what's more comfortable for them.
Yeah, good job, good job.
Simple drill, okay? This covers 2 things. 1, everybody gets to play a center, and everybody gets to play a quarterback in this drill. And that's if you want to do a long snap. You can also teach just right under center where they're grabbing the ball from them just as well. but the same drill. You can just make a line. It's going to allow you to find out who is my quarterback, also who feels comfortable snapping the ball. So just a simple drill, and great. As he said, you can set up a couple lines. Yes?
Does the snap have to go through the center's leg, or can it be a side toss?
Good question. So if you're more comfortable with snapping the ball this way, by all means do it. Yep, absolutely. And I probably recommend that. Unless you get a kid that really says, hey, I want to be a center and snap the ball through his legs. But probably recommend the side snap. Yep, good question. By the way, these drills, there's a million of them, as Ray said, online. You can just Google anything, flag football drills, you'll get 100 hits. So, and that's where these are from. So I just grabbed a couple that I thought might be a little bit more popular for you. So this is another big one I think that's kind of important, is people say, okay, how do I actually hand off and run with the football? What we don't want to do is we don't want kids running into each other. So we want to just make sure that we teach the kids how to hand off the football. So another simple drill.
Help players master the handoff. In this game we call handoff relay. Divide your players in half and line each group up 10 yards apart. Give the first player in one line a ball. Here's how it looks. On your call, the ball carrier runs towards the first player in the other line. As they approach, that player starts to jog forward, making a window to receive a handoff. As they cross, they exchange the ball and the new ball carrier runs off towards the other line. Players continue running the ball across the space, handing it off to the next player in line, and trying to keep the rhythm going without a drop. Continue playing until every player has successfully made and received several handoffs. Remember to demonstrate proper technique to receive a handoff, with the arms making a window and the elbow closest to the ball up. When handing off the ball, remind players to hand the other player the ball, rather than let them take it. They should extend their arms and place the ball firmly into the other player's body, like that.
Just, again, another great drill for kids playing quarterback or running back. Proper way to take a football is, as I said, to make a basket. That might be hard to teach kids sometimes. So even if they just take the ball, but the concept that we want is that quarterback is going to get it away from their body so they're not colliding with each other. So as long as the football's away from their body, then a kid can grab the football. So that's important. The other thing we also want to teach the kids is they may want to really carry the football correctly. So we always put our fingers over the tip of the ball. We don't want them carrying the ball this way. We actually want them to teach it this way so they don't drop it. They tuck it inside their body, and that's a running drill that we can do with kids all the time. Okay? Questions so far? We're good? Just some simple drills that we have. This is that quarterback running back exchange where you make two lines. As we said, they hand off the ball, they run to the next one, and then that next kid hands them off. So you can kind of do that drill. It's real simple to set up. It's easy. Kid gets to play quarterback, kid gets to play running back. So a simple drill there. Okay, this is just a running back drill that you can teach kids. You have a quarterback. Remember, we're going to snap the ball. You have the center, he's going to snap the ball, and then he's going to turn and give it to a player. You may want to design a player like Ray talked about that they did with a kid. They had a specific play for a specific kid. You may have that. A kid may say, we're just going to have you run to the right, but he has to be able to turn and put that ball and give that kid the ball. That's where we don't want kids to collide into each other. That's where they're going to get frustrated. So that's something that you really want to practice. Make sure that the quarterback sticks that ball out for them. Okay, another simple drill. They're calling that a 3-on-2 drill because what they're doing is they're actually putting some defensive players out there so to kind of have the kid just make sure he doesn't run, avoids defensive kids. A simple drill. This is the one I was talking about that we don't want kids to run too wide. Sometimes a kid will get a football and he'll just run sideways because he's afraid of the kid. So you can set up some cones with a defensive player out there, and once they get the ball, they run between the cones. We call it running north and south. We don't want the kids running east and west. We want them to go that way. Set cones up so we get them, hey, go up into that pocket. Go up and make sure you run in there. They get the ball, they tuck it in, they run, and then that player right there, if they're good enough, they can dodge him, or you can have that kid try to pull their flag. Good? Again, by the way, we're videotaping this. We'll be more than happy to share the videotape with you. I'll share the PowerPoint with you, whatever else you need. So we'll just review it again at any time. This is probably another big one that people get concerned about. How do we pull the flag? There are tons of drills out there, so I'm just going to show you at least one of them.
Grab as many flags as you can in this evasive running game we call Flag Attack. Use 4 cones to create a square space. Give each player a flag belt and tell them to spread out throughout the space. Here's how it looks.
Ready, set, go! Go, 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 go!
On your call, everyone runs around trying to grab as many flags as they can, holding on to all the flags they pulled. If a player loses their flags, they continue to play and replace them with ones they pull.
Good, spin moves, I love the spin moves!
Play short rounds, about a minute long. The player with the most flags wins the round. Flag pulling is the name of the game here, and players might try anything to protect their belts. Remind them that any move that obstructs their flag from being taken is flag guarding. No covering, tucking, or swiping allowed. Do this in the actual game, and they'll be called for a holding penalty.
I saw a lot of flag guarding in there.
The right way to protect flags is with jukes, cutbacks, spins, and twists. So encourage players to do their best LT impression. Grab as many.
Flag pulling can be a lot of fun. Gabby, you have a question?
So just watching that video, how are we supposed to adapt this for kids who have like balance issues?
Okay, I'm going to, oh, she just walked out. Kathy Davey, who played flag football, she did a lot of drills with, sometimes they just had kids run in a straight line. You know, instead of that back and forth, that you're right, some kids may not be able to handle that. You can set up a straight line of kids. You can have a kid run towards you and he's standing there and they're just reaching for the flag. When we teach, yep, questions?
Are there going to be any flags that are available for wheelchairs?
Oh, good question.
2 wheelchairs.
You know, that's interesting. That's something that we can kind of come up with, where we hang a flag off the side of a wheelchair.
One of our wheelchairs has a tray to it. The other one, he can drive himself, but he can't wear it on his wheel.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Oh, good. I'm going to look into that. That's a great question.
If you could take 2 legs and connect them to make one and then tighten it so it fits the chair.
Yeah.
Where put it up by the handles?
Yeah, maybe, because we've had a student that the one of the belts didn't fit, so we connected the 2. So I know they clip together, and then you can make a bigger one and then tighten it to make it snug.
Yep.
Maybe.
That's good. I'm going to check on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and let's see what we can come up with.
Okay, thank you.
Because we've modified things for kids in wheelchairs with all of our other sports. When you have the belts hang on either side, so they're on the sides of the kids. When they go to pull the flag, especially these, you get a little pop. It's easier to try to teach the kids to reach up as high as they can for the belt. Think about when the belt when you're running with the belt. That bottom part is flopping. That's hard to grab onto. But if you have them shoot up high, it's much easier to carry. So we always tell the kids, watch their waist. It's something, again, we're teaching. It's a little bit more of a sport with more skill in it, but they'll catch on. They really will. So, Gabby.
I did have one more question. Is this something that we're envisioning having tiers to, like we do to basketball? Because I'm picturing some of my higher end kids going really, really hard in this, and I'm so happy they're having a super fun time. But I'm also picturing some of my lower end kids, you know, kids in helmets, kids who have the balance issues, kids in wheelchairs who
Right.
are not going to play at that level. So do we have them all on the same team together?
We will have to have level playing.
Okay.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think looking at that, we talked about it, perhaps we'll call it a tournament, but we'll call it a game, the game may only have 3 teams there, and they're all playing at the same level. So obviously, we don't want a level 1 team playing with a level 3 in this sport. Yeah, they'll be passing touchdowns left and right, and we don't want that. So that's really important, that when we talk about putting teams together, that we're looking at what's the level ability of kids. Yep, it's a great point. Again, keep it simple. You may not understand all of this, but these are just 5 examples. A dive is just the quarterback handing the ball off. Kind of a simple play. All right, dive right, dive left. So that running back is just coming. They're getting the ball from the center. He's turning. The kid is grabbing the ball either left or right. Simple play. Let them run. So a sweep is we're going to hand the ball off, and the person's running. Remember, they're running out to the sideline and up the cones. So kind of making it just a wider play. It's a dive with just a wider sweep. Okay, simple ones. A toss, if you really have an athlete that you feel can handle the ball, we're taking the ball, and he's going to actually toss to the player. And that player is going to then run it up. Simple plays. You may say, oh, they're not going to be able to do it. Trust me, they can do it. They'll be able to do it. And if you really feel comfortable with passing, just a kind of a quick dump, so you have an athlete, as soon as the quarterback gets the ball, he's just throwing it a couple yards. We're not looking to throw the bomb where a kid's catching the ball 25 yards on the field. Just a simple play where he's catching the ball. The games that I've seen play so far, as I mentioned, when a kid catches the ball, they're so excited of it. We don't care if they run further with it, they caught the ball. They made it 2 yards. It's great. So keep it simple. You can find a ton of plays online. Just as I said, you just Google flag football plays, find the ones that work for your abilities and your kids. So consider hosting a tournament. We really want to try to kick it off this spring, probably sometimes mid-May, once the weather kind of warms up a little bit and you're able to get outside and actually practice with your kids. If you're interested in running a tournament with a couple teams, we can do that. If you want to self-pick the teams, what we're really hoping to do is maybe offer a tournament like we do now, where we have multiple schools sign up for it. Okay? What about referees? We can get varsity officials. I think early on what we want to do, though, is keep it simple, because we don't want a lot of penalties called. All we really want to do is spotting the ball for the most part, making sure that a kid, once they're run out of bounds, we blow the whistle. So I kind of recommend student referees in the beginning. Kind of what we do with soccer, where we have student referees. If you can get a football player to be a referee at your unified game, boy, that'd be key, okay? A football player is going to invite more football players. Now maybe you get more partners. Or better yet, you have some fans in the stands at your game, okay? So football players watching your unified kids play football. How fun would that be? And just keep it fun. Remember, just like anything else that we do, it's not about winning. It's about really just keeping this sport a lot of fun. There's no question about it. So that being said, if you take a quick look at your packet, okay, that I have, does everyone have one of those folders in front of you? There are a couple of things I have in here. First of all, our modified rules and I talked about some of those important rules that we have. We're going to start at the 5-yard line. And if you look in your packet, I actually have a field drawn out where I have 3 fields on a football field, similar to what we do in soccer, okay, running across. Your 5-yard line, because there's no lines going across, our 5-yard line is going to be about where the numbers are on the field. So if you look at a football field with your 10, 20, 30, 40s are, it's about our 5-yard line. You will always start from that 5-yard line. You have a midfield. You have to get across the midfield in 4 plays to get 4 more plays. Okay, so that's how we're kind of going to do switching between offense and defense. Once you get across midfield, you get 4 more plays to try to score. So you get 8 plays total. And then it goes to the other team, no matter where you are. Once you, if you do not score, then the ball goes on the 5-yard line to the other team. Now they're on offense and you're on defense. Okay? So the field is really simple to do. We put about 5 yards in between each field, similar to what we do in soccer. You can set up a scorer's table there if you want to. All right? So that's what the field looks like. Equipment is, remember, same thing in all of our sports, that we have even numbers for athletes, odd numbers for your partners. Just make sure all the numbers are the same. Again, going back to a quarterback, we don't want a partner throwing the ball to a partner. Okay? So, again, you're going to find one of your athletes are going to play quarterback, and they're going to be pretty good at it. So, or they're going to be pretty good running back. So, by all means, give them that opportunity. Take a look at these modified rules. By all means, email me if you have any questions on them. If you say, hey, Steve, I'd really like to do this instead of that rule. And again, we're going to kind of keep it flexible. The other side, on the right-hand side, what I did is I added some more skills and drills for you that I thought were really kind of good drills. Just some of them I showed you. Others are ones that you're going to be able to incorporate into a practice. So, and again, your tournament game that you do, should you set one up, you can have the start of it being just a skills and drills, and then do a small scrimmage. So you don't have to jump right into a game. So keep it fun. Again, that's the stuff in your folder that I showed you, the modified rules, how to set up the field, what it should look like, etc. So, the New York Jets have gotten in touch with me. We contacted them. New York Jets is starting a flag football program in New York. And I mentioned earlier that, and it's also going to be a unified flag football program. If you watch the Super Bowl, during the Super Bowl, there's going to be commercials about flag football. So we're jumping ahead of it, okay? We're beating New York to the thing. Because you are here, you are going to get a set of Jets flags once they come in. We don't have them yet. Jets told me they're coming, but all the schools, when I had you check in, I'll make sure that you get a set of flags, okay? So we promised you a couple of gifts today. You're going to get some flags on it as well. So, hopefully that'll help use them for practice. Whatever else you need, there are extra flags for you as well. Okay? The Jets are also talking about maybe a couple other things for us.
I don't know if you covered it because I stepped out, but the size of the football.
Good question. Okay? These are junior footballs. Okay? We don't want to play with actual real footballs. So if you do not have junior footballs, contact me. We can get them, but I think inside all of you, everybody have a kit here? At one point, did you get a kit? So you should have gotten at least 2 junior football sizes. This is what you want to play with, no matter what level you're at, whether it's level 1 to level 4. Question?
With the level 4s or level 3s and 4s, would there be consideration to play with like a Nerf football?
I was also wondering that because
Like we played in the spring or in the fall, but we did it with a Nerf football.
Yeah, that's fine. If you're comfortable with that. I mean, Nerf football it's hard enough that you can throw it, but it's still soft enough that it's a little bit easier to handle.
I'm wondering about the weight of it because I know I have to struggle to throw a basketball. Like it's too heavy.
Want to try it? What, a Nerf football?
Saved your life.
Thanks. I knew I could count on
Look at that, man. We got a receiver.
I feel like they could. So I know I could catch that.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about a couple of my kids who.
Think about your level.
How many times
Yeah.
I threw this at them, they would not.
Whatever.
would actually do this. Just like I
They
did.
would, yeah. Whatever adjustment you feel you need in your program. Kathy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, when I would do flag football with my students, I had students who were very frightened. So, like how there's like cool balls, like
Yep.
they're soft, they're perfect. They're
Okay.
weighted, they're easy to catch, they're filled with air. It's cloth,
Cool.
actually softer than a Nerf. A pool what? A pool? A pool football, and you can get them junior size. Yes, ma'am.
Kathy, I know you had stepped out, we were talking earlier, and Gabby had a question. What were some of the drills that you did for flag pulling?
We did a lot of capture the flag, the game capture the flag. Kids love that game. We did scarf pulling where we would put it in students' socks. You know, we have them pull their socks up, or I tell them to wear their soccer socks and put flags there. So they weren't grabbing at their waist, they were like grabbing down a little bit lower, so.
Good. Again, go online, you'll find a million drills out there on flag pulling. So it's becoming really popular. So it's at all levels out there. So that being said, how can we help you get your program going? I have my cards out in the lobby if you didn't see it there. You can contact me here at the office. There is my email as well. So any questions that you have right now, either for me or for the real expertise Ray, by all means, we're here. The staff is here to help you. We would really love to get some contests going this spring on whatever level. Okay? And I think really once that kicks in, your kids will have a lot of fun. Yes?
A very basic question. Say the quarterback hands off the ball. Can that player then run a little bit and then hand it to somebody else?
Oh, I love it. I love that question, man. You're really getting into real football. So if you really want to get fancy, okay? So I'm going to have Gabby come up here because she looks like a true football player.
You know it.
Okay? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to hand off the football to Gabby, okay? So Gabby's going to come this way. I'm going to see how I have the football out here. She's just going to take it, and then I'm going to run out for a pass. Now she can run and pass it to me. Or what I can do is I just handed the football off to her. Then I have another kid come around her, and she hands it off. So yes, you can hand it off 12 times if you want to. Sure. But you got to throw from behind the line of scrimmage. Thank you. The quarterback, if the quarterback's going to throw, they can't cross the line of scrimmage and then throw it whenever they want to. Good question. So you're going to teach your quarterback.
What's the line of scrimmage? What does that mean?
Oh, line of scrimmage. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Miss Non-Football Lady. Yes. See, I'm kind of thinking already, man. I'm doing double passes and everything in my head. So the football's here. Okay? So the center's got to snap the ball. That's the line of scrimmage. If you can imagine a line right there, that's where the ball is starting from. So if the ball is snapped to me as the quarterback, I can't run 5 yards and then throw the ball. Okay? I got to be behind the line of scrimmage to throw the football. The whole play happens behind the line of scrimmage. Once I hand the ball off to somebody, that person can go wherever they want to. Okay?
Your students will get more and more, they'll develop like these plays that are just absolutely incredible.
Kids are going to want to, they're going to want to, you'll be surprised what your kids want to do. They've watched football. So they want to see, I want to be that guy that hands the ball off. So once they go past the line of scrimmage, they can't throw it, but they can continue to run. Right. Trust me, you're going to have a quarterback. He's going to run the ball. He's going to go 10 yards down the field, and he's going to try to throw it. But that's where the referee that you have is going to say, no, we can't do that.
If we don't have kits yet, how do we get one?
Oh, if you have,
I don't have.
see me. Okay? Yep. Yep, right after the word see me on that. Guys are excited? It's going to work for you? Yeah, good, good, good. I would love to see you guys at games. Carol. We're going to open up football to anybody, you know, those that aren't here. You guys that are here kind of have, you know, a little bit ahead in the game just because you kind of have a little bit understanding. Some people have already played it already. But if you're interested in doing something at your school this spring, contact me. And we'll get that either online or be invitation only. If you just want to say, hey, Steve, I really want to just get a couple schools here and we're going to do it, we can do that. Okay? We were talking to Nick early, if we can really get things going, we may offer some type of tournament on a college field. So kids may, have a lot of fun playing at a college level. But we're going to take baby steps. There's a little bit more teaching in football than there might be in soccer. But so we just want to make sure you're comfortable and your kids are comfortable as we move along. Ray, I appreciate you coming today, talking to us. Ray's going to be around. We're all going to be around. I believe we have some sandwiches for people in the hallway. Thanks for coming out. Questions, let me know. And if you want, I'll send all this info out to you. Thank you. All right. Thanks, folks.